Okay, so good evening, everyone. Uh, good evening, everyone. Let me know if you can hear my voice and if you can see my screen out there. Azure live training for beginners. So we have like 4 minutes to start. Also, I'm confirming from my team out there. Can you hear my voice? Can you see my screen out there? Let's check out. And this training, we have already flashed the agenda. So if you see the YouTube video, below the YouTube video on the text, we have also flashed the agenda as well, right? So I can see that uh, people can hear my voice, people can see my screen. I'm so excited. Yeah, yes, Nilab, very warm welcome. Even I'm excited out there. I can see, yes, Minaj, welcome, Dave. You are not the only one here for exam. Everyone is here for exam, but more than exam, today my main goal is the following. So I'm going to go and flash the syllabus again back. So you can see that on the screen, I have flashed the syllabus. The syllabus is as follows. So we have like 5-point agenda in this training out here. And the first thing is we're going to go and talk about how Azure is different from normal hosting. So if you go and if you host on GoDaddy, or if you go and if you host on some other website, how is Azure so different? What are these concepts like IAAS, PAAS, and SAAS? Because whenever you go and you say that you want to buy something from Azure, then you need to understand at what level you are buying, what exactly you are buying, right? And when you say that you will take any service of Azure, you need to understand how the geographies and regions are. So basically, because when you talk about Azure, there are data centers. So you need to understand how the topology, or how Azure is structured in terms of data centers. So when you do a backup, when you do a redundancy, what do you call backup or a DR plan, how does it actually work? So geographies, region, data centers, AZ and sets, and we will talk about resource group, and then we will create a simple virtual machine using Azure. We will connect to it. We will see the different settings of it, right? So very quickly, so before I go out there, so let me go and share my screen out here. Now I'm going to go back and I will just go live, and there I'm live, and oops, and that's my Azure screen. I'm so sorry. That's my Azure screen out here. I'm logged in into the portal of Azure. So first thing, how do we get Azure? Well, basically you can just go and subscribe to Azure. If you go and if you subscribe to Azure, uh, Azure free account, right? First thing, let me tell you, there isn't really anything free, but there is definitely 13,000 rupees. So $1 is approximately, I think, 73, 74 rupees. So whatever is the amount. So if you go and if you swipe your card out here, you have 13,000 rupees of credit. And I can tell you that if you utilize this 13,000 properly, you can learn the complete Azure without spending out a single penny. So if you like plan properly, if you swipe your card, and from that point onwards, if you just go and follow a proper tutorial, within 30 days you will learn it, and you will not be spending any amount of money from your actual credit card. So I think this 13,000 rupees is really worth, right? And second thing, remember, if you stop using the service, if you go ahead, let us say you create a virtual machine, and after that, if you keep a habit of deleting the virtual machine, you won't get charged for it, right? So definitely Microsoft is a big company. It's a genuine company. So they will not charge for something if you have not used it, right? So the best way to learn Azure without paying a single money is you have to swipe your card, you have to put your card details, but you won't get charged if you plan properly, right? So a lot of people, I've seen that they start searching for Azure free account. I think you should stop doing that. Put your credit card, be confident, learn. If you learn something, if you use an Azure resource, after you have done with that, just delete it, right? So that's how you go out there. You go ahead, register, and once you do it, you get access to this portal out here. You can see here portal.azure.com, and at this moment I'm logged in out here. I can use any service of Azure. But the first thing is, what's the difference between really Azure and GoDaddy or any other websites which are out there? So the biggest difference out there is, for example, let me go to GoDaddy out there, So must be, I'm using GoDaddy because that's the most used website. So if you go out here, let us say if I go to GoDaddy and if I say I want to go and host something, so you can see here hosting, I go to their hosting plans. So you can see, I see their hosting plans out here, and I see, for example, VP, let's say dedicated server, okay, 8,000 rupees per month, fine, right? And then I go ahead and I say that I want to buy it out. I'm not sure if I can go buy it out, learn more. And if you see out there, it gives you a fixed machine. It says you that this much is the RAM, 32 GB is the RAM, this much is the cost, right? And so on. But it does not give you first thing, to configure. For example, if I want to go and add something now on runtime, I want to go and say that this 32 GB should be 16 GB. No, it does not give you that. It does not give me the option saying that I don't want to use HDD hard disk. I want to use a normal hard disk. It does not give you that, right? And because it does not give you that, there is a fixed cost attached over here, right? And if you see over here, for example, I know that they have given configure server, but believe me, it is not so configurable as Azure. And second, when I go to do a payment out here, so when you go and if you I don't know if they have a payment out here, when you actually go and if you try to pay, okay, let's see this plans and pricing. Oh, that's what it is. So if I go and if I try to pay out here, wherever the payment is, it will take the complete yearly amount from you. So straightforward, whatever, 8,000 or 9,000 rupees into 12 months, that full amount you have to pay. Now, that means that you will pay the full amount upfront. You don't have the option of really configuring anything out here. And second, let us say for some reason, if you, let's say you use it for 1 month and after that for 11 months, if you don't use it, this money is already locked, right? So the first thing is, when you go to sites like GoDaddy, you have to pay, I will write down this over here, you have to pay upfront, right? Let me make the fonts bigger. Upfront. That's the first thing. So, and the second thing is, no way to decide yourself your own configuration. For example, if you have hosted with any one of your local provider, every time you want to update a hard disk, or if you want to go and update a network, or if you want to update RAM or something, you have to send an email, and then he will negotiate on the call, and then it becomes, that's how it is, right, with the local providers. So now, okay, let me go back here. I just want to check, before I keep going ahead. Is everyone able to see my screen? Let me go back to my chat window. Is everyone able to see my screen out there? I'm just worried, because I'm live on YouTube. Yes, training has started. Yeah. So when I was showing the demos, you guys were able to see it. I just want to make sure that it's YouTube, first time I'm doing it. Right. I think you can use the debit card as well. Yes, absolutely. I think so. I need to check out there. I need to check out. Right. Okay, let me chat. I think it's streaming. Can you hear me here and see my demo? Yeah, okay. Thank you very much. There is a lag out there. I'm so sorry. Okay, going back there again, going back live again. I just want to make sure that I don't waste my 1 hour doing something, so let me see, where is my live stream? Yep, I can see that live stream. Yep. All right. Fine. Thank you very much. I'm sorry for asking that again and again. So here it is, guys. I'm going back again, and let me just check. Be live. Okay. So upfront. So first thing, when you go to these sites out there, you have to pay upfront, right? Now, when you go to Azure, now look at Azure. Here it is. I'm logged into the portal of Azure, right? And I don't have to pay anything upfront. I don't have to pay anything upfront. So, but when I start using something, for example, I'll say that, okay, I want to go and configure a virtual machine. Or let us say I want to go and take SQL Server. You can see here, it's like a shopping cart. I go out there, I type what I want, right? So for example, let's say I want to go and take a virtual machine. You can see here, virtual machine, fine. And I go here and I say, I want to go and add a virtual machine. So there it is. And then I can start configuring, saying that, okay, what is going to be my hard disk? what is going to be my networking plan. In the hard disk also I can decide, am I going to use premium, am I going to use the flash drive, right? Also I can decide, the size of my hard disk. I can decide over here, what is the kind of operating system I want, right? Do I want Windows Server and so on. So basically you can see here, this is more configurable. And second, so I go ahead, I create a virtual machine, I use it, let's say for 1 hour, 2 hours, or must be for a month. I get billed accordingly, and when I stop using it, when I delete my my virtual machine, I don't get billed anymore for it. For example, I can just show you my bills of Azure as well here. I've been taking a lot of trainings out here, and which will tell you that how even though I take so many trainings on Azure, but still the bills are quite less as compared to. So if you let me go back here, so I'm going to go to my. Hang on. So let me go back to Azure and let me go to where is. Why don't I see out there monitor? So why don't I see my okay, so I wanted to actually show you that that how the charging actually happens, but looks like fine. First we'll see that later on. So basically if you cost management, yeah, that's something like okay. You can go and search out there. So you can see here, that's my last bill. And remember that I have been taking Azure day and night. That's my last bill out there, which I'm flashing. And if you look at my, and if you look at the things, for example, let me go and show you view details out here. So if you see out there, and I have been using like services like Azure Service Bus, Azure Cosmos DB. So those are like very higher end services, which really cost a lot. And you can see like Azure Data Factory. So you can see here it's quite less, So if you use it properly, that 13,000 rupees is more than enough. Must be I can show you for let's say the current billing period. I just want to make sure that, because a lot of people keep asking, give me a free account. There is no free account out there. Believe me, whatever. I don't know how many people say out there that you will get a free account. There is no free account there. Put your credit card, be careful. You have to delete it. If you don't delete it, you get a bill for it, right? So that's the next point out there, which I'm flashing. So first thing is Azure versus normal hosting is that Azure is pay as you go. So for whatever you use, it is pay as you go. It is a consumption based model. How much you consume, you will pay for it. So for example, like Ola is a consumption based model, or Uber is a consumption based, right? But if you own your own car, then you have to take it everything. You are upfront paying for it. You will take the maintenance of it, right? So that's what all cloud services are. It's either Azure, it's either Amazon, right? Now, second thing, so when we go now to buy something from Azure, what kind of services we can buy, or what are the category of services we can buy, right? So very quickly here, I'm going to my drawing board. So as a developer, when I go to buy something from Azure, I can buy only the hardware, right? So must be sometimes I can just buy the hardware. That means I can buy the hard disk, I can buy network, I can buy the operating system, I can buy the CPU, I can buy the RAM, and a basic operating system on it like Windows or something, right? So must be like, sometimes I go out there and say, okay, I just want to take a virtual machine. I will do it myself, right? But I want it pay as you go, right? So one is that I will buy something at the hardware level. Second, when the whole Azure system has a lot of great products which are built on Azure. So when you say you are going to use Azure, they have provided you nice storage accounts, storage types, right? Remember that these storage types are not exactly like SQL Server, but they are storage type which are more from Azure perspective. So Azure Storage, Office, your Excel, Word, PowerPoint Online. So there are lots of Azure services which are built, which you get with only Azure. Remember that these services are not available offline. So you cannot go and take an Azure storage like table into your local Windows 7 or Windows 10. It is a part of Azure, right? So one is you can say that, okay, I want the hardware and also I will take some services of Azure, right? Some Azure services, probably I can use it, right? The third is that on the top of Azure, a lot of people are building applications. For example, somebody can build an accounting application, right? Someone can build, uh, an inventory application, right? So there are vendors who built on the top of it, applications, right? So must be sometimes you would like to go and buy, these softwares, which are there from the vendors directly. So now when you actually go and buy into Azure, right, you have to say that you need to really just keep in mind, you don't really have to think very hard on that, but you need to keep in mind that what exactly you are doing. So for example, are you just taking a virtual machine? So that means that are you just taking infrastructure as a service? So this metal part, this part out here is IAAS, infrastructure as a service. Means I take an infrastructure, I use it, I throw it, right? Or are you taking platform as a service? So with the Azure platform, whatever services are there, probably I will take the infrastructure also, and also I will take the platform also, right? So I will buy at this level and not exactly at this level. So when you say platform as a service, you will say that no, I don't want to go and create a virtual machine, and then I don't want to go and install something. I just want a simple storage. I will go to Azure storage, I will subscribe to it. Azure will decide internally which virtual machine he will use, and he should bill me less as compared to taking the whole virtual machine, right? Or sometimes you'll go and say, no, I want Office 365, period. I don't want to get into that. What is the operating system? Then that is software as a service, right? So basically, when you go and you take any service from Azure, right, you are into these one of these levels, like infrastructure as a service, or you are at a platform as a service, or you are probably buying software as a service, right? So more you are at this level. So if you are actually at the infrastructure level, the more work you need to do. You need to take the care of backups, you need to take care of a lot of installations. When you start going, as you going at the top, you take less headache of hardware, you take less headaches of softwares, you just concentrate or focus on delivering your business, right? So remember, IaaS, PAAS and SAAS. Infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service, right? So these are the 3 points also which you need to take into account when you are actually talking about Azure, right? So any questions here, at least on the first 2 points? So I'm going to go back now and let us quickly look into Q&A and let us see syllabus. I've already shown the syllabus. The syllabus is already flashed out there. I'm so sorry if the timings are not matching. So, sir, I recently got charged twice, 2100 after a month. So here's a question from Sagar, sir. You have got recently charged. I feel so that if you have got charged 2100, that means that you have bought something constant out there. Please go out there, just check over there. That if you have taken any service, just delete it. Which one using, credit card or debit card? I've been using credit card, but I feel so that there should be a support of debit card as well. I need to check that part. Will it be useful for AZ 203 or AZ 900 certification? That's a question from Minaz. Yes. In this, this is a 1 hour of lecture out here, so I can't today talk too much. But whatever I'm teaching out here, there are a lot of questions which will come from this session as well. For example, when I talk about geographies, when I talk about regions and data centers, and when I create the VM, a lot of points of AZ 900 I will be discussing, because AZ 900 certification is a basic certification and this is a basic training, so that it should help you. So 20-30% from this 1 hour of training you should be able to look into it, right? Okay, so question from Basant Kumar sir out here. As a .NET developer, I should go for PAAS, or I should go for IaaS, or I should go for SaaS? What exactly? See, it's first thing, I just gave you the perspective of IaaS, PAAS and SAAS, but I think these perspectives have now been, they are mixed up completely. For example, when I go to Azure out there, I don't think about nowadays that am I doing IaaS or am I doing PAAS or SAAS? I just say, what does my customer need? My customer needs an Excel service. Fine, I will give him Office 365. So I have stopped thinking, into those lines of IaaS, PAAS, SAAS. But I think, it makes sense, because, for example, when you go and say, I'm buying SQL Server from Azure, then you need to understand at least you should know that SQL Server is a different product of Microsoft and it is not part of the platform, or neither it's a part of hardware. So it is very good to know about it. For example, if I go and say, okay, I want to buy Oracle. So by knowing that this Oracle is not the part of PAAS of Azure, that means it will be charged more to me. It's a different company. So Microsoft cannot own too much things about it, right? So at least I'll be aware of it. But I think, I've stopped thinking now that am I doing IAAS, am I doing PAAS or SAAS? I just go ahead and I say, I want a virtual machine. Okay, I create a virtual machine if I have the budget. Right, so must be you can, so I have a question, there's a question here, please explain IAAS, PAAS again. So Ankit, you can go back and just see the tutorial back. So IAAS means infrastructure, I'll just repeat. IAAS means at the infrastructure level. Platform as a service means Azure tables, Azure storages, or Azure service fabric, which, or whatever comes with a part of Azure. Without Azure, that service is not available. That is called as platform as a service, which is available only on Azure platform exclusive. It is a part of Azure platform. And software as a service means when third-party vendors develop application using Azure, it is available in the marketplace. Okay, too big. Right, and so let's go back again. Let us now go ahead and I can see a lot of questions out here, and the questions will keep coming. Let us go ahead and create a virtual machine, and let us look into geographies, regions, data centers, and so on. Right. So I'm going to go back again to my live out here. So I'm out here now. Right. So let us say we want to go and create a virtual machine. So you can see at the left hand side there is a big menu out here. Don't get confused. Don't start looking at these menus, because the time you start looking at them, you will feel that you have to learn a lot of things in Azure. Just go and see that you are an admin, what you want to do. You want to do networking, go and add a network. You are a developer, you want to go and host application, say that, okay, I want to do web applications, right? Or app service plan or logic apps. So, a lot of people you should do a basic course of Azure. You should definitely do a basic course of Azure. But when you're going out there on the Azure platform, you should think it like, whatever I want, I will do, and not like everything, right? So a basic course you should do. You should know what are the different services, but don't try to learn like all the services. You will probably just get tired and you will lose stamina. So here I'm going to go and create a virtual machine out here. So virtual machine, and I will say add a virtual machine. When you are doing Azure for the first time, probably the menus are confusing, but as you start doing it one service after another service, it is just like using Amazon or Flipkart. The way you do shopping is just the same way, right? So I'm going to go and say add a virtual machine out here. So there it is. So let us go ahead and create a Windows Server 2019 virtual machine out there. Right, the first thing here is a subscription. Is saying, okay, so you have bought your subscription. Yes, I'm going to go and use pay as you go. The next thing is over here is something called as a resource group. Let's discuss about resource group out here. What exactly is a resource group? So now what happens is in Azure, very quickly, let me just check. Yes, I'm live. So in Azure, what happens is, let us say you have taken a lot of things in Azure. You have taken a VM, you have taken a database, SQL Server. Then for another company, you have taken another VM, you have taken another SQL database, you have taken MSMQ service, let us say. And then for some other person, you have used some web hosting service you have used, right? Now, let's say that this is for customer 1, this is for customer 2, this is for customer 3, right? And let's say customer 1 come back and says, hey, like, stop my service. Then you need to quickly go and delete both of them, right? Or let's say customer 1 says, give me a bill. Then you need to send bill of only of these two services which is used. So in other words, you need to really go and logically group these services together so that you can manage it. You can build them. You can provide rights. You can do roles, permissions, delete them, and so on, right? And that's what resource groups are. Resource group logically groups Azure services what you have bought. So for example, this can be resource 1. This can be resource. You can say this is a US resource for some US project. This is a UK resource for some UK project, right? So that's what exactly is a resource. So I'm going to go here and I will say create new, and I'll say res1, resource 1, right? I'll say okay out here. And then I will give some name to the virtual machine. So let us say this is VM123. Give a proper name. So like give at least like, for example, Okay, UK machine hyphen project, so put some proper naming convention out there, but for now I'll just keep it simple, VM123. The next thing he says is that, okay, select a region. Now this is the most important part, and let us try to understand it. Region. Now what the Azure team has done internally is, they have created something called as geographies. So at the top you have a geography must be India, right? Frankly, a geography is a boundary of a country. It's a sovereign boundary of a country. So basically, let's say you have India, you have UK, you have US, right? So at the top there is something called as a geography. You will not see geography anywhere as such in the Azure UI. So on the UI, if you see out here, you don't see anything as a geography, you directly see regions. Now inside these geography, right, we have something called as regions. So regions can be saying, okay, in India, there can be a Bangalore region, must be, we can say Bangalore West, right? Or there can be a Mumbai region where we can say Mumbai Central, right? Central of Mumbai. And then in the Bangalore West, there can be a building, where there will be a data center 1. And inside that data centers, you will have machines which are there. And these machines are on racks. So you can have rack 1, you can have rack 2, and inside that the machine, right? And the same holds true for the other things. So you have a geography has a region has data centers, inside data centers you have rack, and into one of those racks is your hardware on which your service runs, right? So geography, regions, data centers, racks, right? So now, but for now, so here it is saying, okay, tell me which region you want to select. Now, why they have given a selection of a region? Definitely, like for example, if I think that my customers are only from India, then I will probably select India. And second, I think the most important part of regions are, protecting countries' sovereignty, countries' data. For example, think about like India, like, let's say if tomorrow, let's say the Indian government thinks about that we want to host our Aadhaar card data into Azure, then Azure should promise me that this data should be hosted into the India's geographical boundary. Or let us say you have US, US says, okay, like, my, like example, China has so hard rules out there, Russia, right? So if Microsoft wants them to use the Azure service, then they have to follow the rules and the policies of that government, right? So I think the most important thing of selecting a region out here is, one is definitely the nearness, right? But the most important part is following the GDPR rules or following the rules of that country and ensuring that the country data is protected, right? So I'm going to say Central India at this moment, whatever is their default. Redundancies. You can see here now, this is very important. So let us say you create a virtual machine, and for some reason this virtual machine gets corrupted, then you want to have a redundant virtual machine somewhere out there, right? So that's what this availability set is. So you can see here, there is an availability zone and there is an availability set. Very interesting. Availability zone and availability set, AZ and AS. So let me go back, clear canvas. So I said that there is a geography. Inside the geography, there are regions, and inside regions, there are zones. So when I said Bangalore West, or when I said, so those are actually zones, right? So you can have a zone here, let's say zone 1, which is Bangalore, and then you can have a zone 2, which is far. It should be, at least by rule of Azure, one zone should be at least like 400 or 500 kilometer away. But nowadays, because of the city growing so much and we don't have place, I think those rules, I'm not sure how much it is followed, but one zone, should be away at least, more than 200, 300 kilometers, so that we can have redundancy plan. So let's say you can have zone 2 out here, which is again separate, which can be Bangalore East somewhere, right? Now inside this zone, then you have racks, right? So let's say you have rack here. Now let's say you have a VM here which you have hired. So there is a VM out there in zone 1 which you are using. Now if you say I want to use availability set for redundancy, if I'm going to go and use this first option out here, availability set, if I use, then what he will do is, inside this same data center, must be inside not this rack, but in the same building, in the same data center, he will create a backup for you and keep it. And if something goes wrong in this rack, he will bring that thing out in here and help you to do the DR plan. So help you to just come back live again, right? So this is termed as an availability set. An availability set is basically from that set of that rack set, he creates a DR. An availability zone means he will take this VM and into the other zone's rack, he will create a backup, redundant. So that, tomorrow if you want, you can just bring that back in, right? So this is availability set. You can see this availability zone is disabled. So this means that probably for central India, availability set is not there. For example, let me go back and select must be US Central, because I feel that this is made in US, so all the services are available in US. So if you see out here, oh, there it is. You can see now the availability zone is highlighted. So it depends on the geography, they have that plan or not. But I'm sure that as time goes by, you will find availability zone and availability set everywhere almost in the whole earth for Azure, because I think they are creating those hardware, they are creating those infrastructure for it, right? So for now, I'll say no infrastructure out there. And let me not select Ubuntu. Let me go and say I want to go ahead and take Windows Server 2019 data center. So you can see out here, this is very interesting. I can select my operating system out here. I can say Red Hat, I can say Windows Server. And very interesting, if I select Windows Server out here, just to quickly show you, you can see here it shows me that do you have a Windows Server license which you have bought offline. For example, let us say you have bought offline a Windows Server license. You can put that license and start using it. You will be billed less, right? But now look at this. If I go and if I select Ubuntu Server, now Ubuntu is a free operating system. It does not have any license as such. So you can see here, he is not showing me those keys out there. But if I select Red Hat, I don't know about Red Hat, how they are, because Red Hat is an enterprise Linux, right? So yeah, you can see here it does not show it, and that makes sense because Red Hat does not belong to Microsoft. So they don't know really that these keys can be used or not, right? So that also option he has given. So if you go out here and if you select Windows Server 2019 data center, this bill, what you see out here, 6,000 rupees per month, right? It is 6,000 rupees per month, but per hour it is something different. I'll come to that. So 3 GB RAM, that's the default he has given. This amount also includes not only hardware, but also the license cost. If I go out here and if I put a license, then the license cost will not be billed for me per month. Again, the license cost is also paid per month, right? So I'm going to go and say Windows Server 2000 Center out here. Let's change the size. If I wish, I can go and I can change the size out here. And you can see at the left hand side, it is showing cost per month, like 521. That's the cost for per month. And you can see the RAM, what it is out here. Don't select a too cheap server. Sometimes the virtual machine will not literally start. It will take hours to start, right? So you can go and you can select your size of the virtual machine. But at this moment, I think, I will just keep it as it is. I think I'm okay with this because when you look at the hourly cost, it will be hardly 100, 200 rupees. And after this training, I will delete it, right? So I'll keep it as it is. This is the Windows username and password. So I'll just put my username out there and my password. Okay. Let me do the full demo, guys. Then I will go back and I will see the questions out there, right? So there it is. Do you want people to connect to this virtual machine from outside? Yes. So that's why this RDP port is enabled, right? So first thing is, he told me to select my operating system. He told me to select, where exactly this will be hosted. He told me to select my hardware, the RAM, and etc. You can see there is something called as a hard disk out here. If you want to go back and say over here that no, I don't want the premium hard disk, I want an HDD one, you can go and select over there. You can go and add more hard disk if you wish. Networking, so by default he gives you a network out here. He gives you out a public IP as well. So if you want a public IP, you can use this public IP. He also creates a subnet mask and so on. So you can see even the NIC card, the network card, everything, the whole network as well is a part of this IAAS service. Remember, this is at this moment what I'm doing out here is infrastructure as a service. I'm buying the hardware and a basic operating system, right? So you can't just buy hardware into Azure, right, without anything. So you will need a basic operating system. So management, yes, uh, fine. So what you can do out here is sometimes they keep this enable backup on and it increases the cost. So I'm just looking out here, nothing over there. Fine. So review and create, I think this is good, and I will just go and review and create. You can see this is 8 rupees, approximately 9 INR per hour. I think that is fine. This training will be mostly half an hour, and I will delete it. So I'm going to go and say create out here. Once you say create, at the right hand side you can see out here it is flashing initializing for deployment, and after some time he will give me access to my virtual machine, right? So guys, any questions out there, any queries? I will go back again, and until the what do you call until the Azure virtual machine is created, I can go and answer some questions out there. So any queries on what things I filled out there, what are geographies, what are regions, what is a set, an availability set, what is an availability zone. Sir, can you please give more examples on EAAS, PAAS and SAAS? Okay, I am a C++ developer and I want to switch to Azure developer. What should I begin with? So first thing, here it is. Let me be very truthful, Dhananjay sir. I feel, people say me that, okay, like when should I choose Azure? If you are doing Microsoft development, you should choose Azure. If you're not doing Microsoft development, for example, if you're doing Java or something, Amazon is great, awesome, right? And when I say that you are doing Microsoft development, means you should be good in C#, you should be good in MVC, you should know how to use Visual Studio, because the marriage between the Microsoft technologies and Azure is seamless because both belongs to one company. So I think C++ will not really add value if you're talking about Azure. Must be if you do C#, if you do .NET, if you do SQL Server, and those things, you will find that Azure is just like the next kid around. You just throw up the virtual machine, you connect SQL Server, you do all that integrated security. It's all inside the Azure premises, Microsoft ecosystem. So I think you also need to do a bit of C# as well if you are serious about Azure development. Azure admin is a different thing. If you want to just do Azure admin, that's a different thing. And I'm not really sure that when you say Azure admin, I think you really need to, you have to know some development. For example, if you want to do Azure DevOps configuration, you have to know how .NET Core is compiled, how Java is compiled, because you need to invoke all that, right? If you say you want to go and do Azure using Docker, you need to know that what kind of, so development will be an integral part of Azure as well. Okay, so let's go back here. Okay, so again a question here. I will answer this from Avinash Damera. As a .NET, it is better to go for AWS or Azure. Let me shout that on the mic. If you are a C# and ASP.NET developer, it is Azure, Azure, and Azure. No, like when I look at AWS, I don't see that natural integration with them. But yes, if you're doing Java, if you're doing Oracle, AWS is awesome. No for Azure. If you're a Java developer or if you're non-Microsoft developer, I don't feel like Azure really connects with those systems. It does. You can see that you can have Linux and so on, but then you have to build from scratch, right? So here's a question. So I can see a lot of questions, guys out here. Which service is costly? Okay, good question, Siva. From my point of view, the most costly service is Azure Cosmos DB. Azure Cosmos. In the same YouTube channel, we have an Azure Cosmos video. You can have a look at that. If my support team is out here, please send a message to Azure, the video for Azure Cosmos. Okay. When we can find everything in PAAS, so why do we need to do infrastructure as a service? See, at the end of the day, PAAS will not give you access to virtual machine. So for example, if I go and create a website, he will not give me access to virtual machine. I cannot go and configure hard disk. He will use a shared drive. This is a very good question, guys. Let me go back to my drawing board out here. So I'm going to go back to go live again. A very nice question out here. And I think I should talk about it. So the question here is, So you said that this is infrastructure as a service. You said that this is platform as a service. Platform as a service, and you said this is software as a service. So if I just buy out here, it's good, right? It's awesome. But remember that when you are buying something, when you do something out here, you don't get access to configure all these. So for example, if you say that you want to go and host an ASP.NET application, a web application, what it does is it goes ahead and it takes one of those shared VMs. There are lots of VMs in Azure, remember, huge infrastructure, and it will throw this application into one of those VMs and it will start running it. But he will not now give you configuration saying that you can go and access to this VM. That he will not do. You can deploy now. You can only go and change your web config files. You can only go and change your code, but you can't really go and get access to this. So when you go at the top, that means that you don't want to really take the headache down below, and it starts giving you virtual machines on the fly, or it gives you shared virtual machine. So if you're doing something very, very custom, for example, let us say that you want to do Oracle with MySQL, with SQL Server, with MSMQ, with something, these kind of systems you will not get ready-made in Azure. Let's say you want to do VB6, Visual Basic 6, old Basic R, and everything, right? You don't have all of this available as a platform as a service, right? So I think everything has its own importance. You need to ask that what kind of control you want, right? And remember that the more you go at the top, you are charged more for it. Or I'll say rather, it actually depends, but I've seen that the more you try to encapsulate yourself, the more you give the headache to Azure, saying that it's your work. He says, if it's my work, then I will charge you more, right? So it depends on what kind of control you want. So I'll again go back now to questions out there. Let's go back to questions, and also I will switch back to syllabus here. And guys, very quickly, this is, as this training is going on, right? If you share this video on your Facebook, if you share this video on your Twitter account or anywhere else, right? And if you send us a mail, I will see that you get 2 hours of Azure training from us, right? So very quickly, I will again go back to questions out here. In your earlier Azure basic video, you told us to select the basic free plan instead of clear. So was that same like we purchased shared hosting? Okay, guys, let me see that if I can answer questions. Okay, I think I have, let me do like this. I have like more 20 minutes out here. How about doing first thing like this? Let me go back. That virtual machine has been created. Let me go back and show you that virtual machine, how I can connect to it. And then I will go back to the questions, right? So must be I will have 10-15 minutes of more time, for the questions. So again, I'll go back to live out there, and let us go now to Azure, and you can see here, there it is. Your deployment is complete, right? Your deployment is complete. Let me see live stream. Let me see if that page is coming. Okay, 45 minutes. Okay, fine. So you can see here, your deployment is complete out there. So now let us go to this resource out here. I'm going to go back to this resource out here, and you can see a lot of configurations of this virtual machine out here. But at this moment, I just want to go ahead and connect to it. And if you remember, I had given a public IP address to it. And why I don't see this public IP address? It should have shown up. Oh, there it is. You can see that there is a public IP address which is out there, right? So now if I want to go and connect to Azure out here, I need to really first go and click on this connect out here. What this connect does is it actually gives me an RDP file. And this RDP file has all the details of how to connect to that port, right? So I'm going to go and click on connect out here. You can also see out here, I can go and I can restart the virtual machine. I can delete the virtual machine, and a lot of things out here, which is out here. You can go and configure the network. You can configure the DNS, right? So I'm going to go and say connect out here. So it's how do you want to connect? Do you want to connect using the remote desktop? Do you want to connect using SSH? So I'll just say RDP file, and I will download the RDP file. You can see down below, he has downloaded my RDP file, and I will just connect over here. There it is, connect. And I had put password. Remember the password which I had put, the same password. I need to put it out here, and I should see my virtual machine, Windows 2019 data center virtual machine. I can log in. You can see right out there. This is the first time I'm logging into this virtual machine out here, and because of that, it is possible that he will. So there it is. It's possible that he will go and he will create those profiles and so on. You can see here, personalize my setting, the way you get in a normal operating system when you load first time Windows operating system, right? And then after some times, I think I should be able to see my start menus. I can go and I can connect to internet. I can download things out here. So you can see out there, that's my Windows 2019 data center. You can see that even he has given us a network out here. So that's again good. So I can do, I can start doing things with the virtual machine out here, right? So that's my server dashboard. Right. So that's my virtual machine which is running out there, and good. Now some couple of points out here. You get billed as per how much you use the virtual machine. What it means is that, for example, if I go and close this, and if I go to my virtual machine properties and if I say stop, let us say if I go and if I say stop out here, I will not be billed for RAM and CPU, but I will be billed still for the hard disk. I will not be billed for the RAM and CPU because I'm not using it, but I will be still billed for the hard disk. So until you don't delete this complete resource from out here, you will keep getting charged, right? So that's a very simple demo. I created a virtual machine. I put the proper resources. I put the proper groups. I put the RAM and the hard disk, and then I went ahead, I connected, right? So any questions now that I've done with the demo, let us go back and let us see some questions out there. So I'm going back out there. Now we have like 15 minutes and we can just go through all the questions. YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth, right? Okay. I can see there are some problems out here, but I can still start answering questions. Right. Am I audible, guys? Am I audible? I'm not sure. The streaming of YouTube is really problematic. Right. So let me start the question. As a beginner, which preferable certificate I should do? I'm a .NET developer. AZ900. AZ900 is the certification for beginners. Right. Sir, being a developer working past 4 years, what can help us to learn Azure fully? Is there any course available? So yes, I do have my own course out there, which is on Questpon VD. So guys, you can go to questpon.com. So just let me show you my course out here. Must be, you can have a look at it. So a lot of people are asking out there, do you have a course out there? Yes, I do have a course. And also tomorrow is a Azure Saturday on Questpon. So I'm going to go and take 3 hours of live training. So 1.5 hours in the afternoon and 1.5 hours in the evening. It's going to be 3 hours of live training. At the same time, we have videos as well. So you can see out here, I have chalked out a full Azure course, which talks about Azure. It talks about how to use SQL Server. It talks about Azure Storage, Azure Cosmos, Azure Fabric, Azure Tables, Blobs, Queues, Cloud Services, WebJobs, Azure DevOps, Microservices, Azure Virtual Network. You ask for it and it is there, right? So I do have a course out there. It's almost like 8 or 9 hours of course. If you're interested, you can go and you can ping to questpon.com where things are there, right? Okay, so so let's quickly, I'll see now the other things. Let me go back. I mean, which are the services are mandatory? Very good question from Saurabh sir. Which are the mandatory services? I think the first thing is you need to know how to use virtual machine. Let's say assume you're a .NET developer. You should know how to host web apps. You should know how to host, let me go and switch this out here. Right, so you should know how to host web apps. You should know how to use Azure Functions. You should know how to use SQL Server on Azure. You should know Azure Storage. So I think there are 7 or 8 services which I have listed in my tutorial as well, my course. Those services are more than enough to start with. Okay, let me go back. In your early Azure basic video, you told us about selecting the basic free plan instead of creating a VM. So was that same like we purchased shared hosting? Basic free plan in our Azure basic video? No. So free plan means you get those 13,000 credit, Rishi. In that 13,000, if your VM is like less than 13,000 rupees, you will not get billed for it. Can we encrypt the disk on the VM? Don't worry, Payal, all that is taken care by Azure. Security is taken care by Azure. We really don't have to worry about it. What should I learn in Azure as a SharePoint developer? Very good question. You should learn SharePoint online, frankly, and you should learn all the services which are then on the portal of Azure. So I think if you're a SharePoint guy, I feel so you should learn the same thing what the .NET person also should know. Because in SharePoint, you must be creating web parts. I don't know, there's no web parts now, I'm sorry. But like you must be writing some C# code, you must be publishing out there, right? For those kind of things, I think still you should know everything as an Azure developer. That means how to create VMs, how to host web applications, functions, Azure storages, SQL Server, and so on. Is it possible to set multiple data centers in a single zone? So Subrajit, these zones and data centers are set by Microsoft. We can't change them. We can't say that, okay, now add Bangalore to someone else, right? We can't do that. That is already inbuilt. We can only choose. We can only choose which zone we want. But you can't really go and change the zones and add it to some other country. That is not possible. What is virtualization? What is availability set? Okay, that's a good question out here. Virtualization and availability set. I think that's a nice question. I want to answer that. The complete Azure stands on virtualization. First thing, let me tell you that the complete Azure is on virtualization. Means what? Here it is. You have data centers. In data centers, you have physical machines. So these are physical machines out here. Let's say this physical machine is a Windows Server 2019 data center. There is one more physical machine out here, which is again something. Now, if there is a user out here, he says, hey, I want to go and create a VM. So what he does is, inside using virtualization, he creates a VM inside this. So basically there is great physical machines, strong physical machines out there in the data centers. And when some user asks for a service, that service gets hosted in one of those VMs out there. So it actually uses virtualization. So let's say now it's possible you have another user, he will get the same hardware and this VM will be created out here. When you start increasing the size of the VM, let me add that. When you start increasing the size of the VM, then you get more strong hardwares, and there it's possible that you are the only person who is using probably that hardware, right? But if you are using a shared service like web hosting or like what you call function API, logic apps and something, you'll be just thrown into one of the VMs. He will just use the CPU power and RAM power or hard disk power and help you out. But you don't have really control on how to use it. So virtualization is an inbuilt part of Azure. Okay, so again I'll go back to questions. Guys, there are a lot of questions out here. I'm getting now. Okay, I heard Azure Fabric. Please put some light on it. So Azure Fabric, Basant, is nothing but it's one of the services of Azure, wherein you have a lot of VMs out there. So you go and you say that these 4 VMs belong to this Fabric. So Fabric is like a cloth, right? So you view 4 or 5 VMs, and then over there you go and you put an application, it goes into one of those VMs. So Azure Fabric is nothing but a cluster of VMs. If you want to manage a cluster of VMs, then you have Azure Fabric. What is the scope of Python programming in Azure? Well, Azure has provided something called as Azure Notebooks. So you can go and you can take Python code, you can host it on Azure, you can run it on Azure. So Python really, Azure only adds value in terms of giving you infrastructure power to run your machine learning systems. But it does not really give you, it does not enhance Python compiler as such. So there is something called as Azure Notebooks, Azure ecosystem of Azure ML, Azure machine learning. You can host Python, you can host your applications, you can run them, you can debug them, and you can use the big horsepower of VMs, which are given there out by the Azure ecosystem. Next live session or live private. So Devji, you can go and you can just contact questpon.com where we are having those live trainings. Tomorrow we are having those live trainings out there. What is the difference between Azure App Service? Okay. Right, I can see a lot of questions out there. So guys, I think we are almost up with time, and I can see questions and questions and questions out there, and I know that I have to be time bound as well. So I hope that you have enjoyed this whole training. I can see a lot of questions out there. What you can do is, once this video becomes live, please put your questions in the comments. If you can put the questions, if you can take your questions and if you can put it in the comments, I will try to answer them. Oh, okay, don't spam Akshay. I'll take your question. What all can I do with Azure, and what all is needed to learn Azure? So you can do with Azure, I think. Oh, Akshay, you're spamming, right? Okay, fine, guys. Thank you very much. And I think, Akshay, you should see the whole video, what I've shown. You will know that what you can do, what you can do with Azure out here. I should know how to go ahead and remove a user as well. Right, I'm sorry, Akshay, I'm removing you. Okay. Can't I? Okay, put user in time. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Yes, thanks a lot. Okay, so guys, what you can do is take your questions and put it out there. Please go and share this video out there. So if you can go and if you can share this video out on your LinkedIn, if you can go and if you can share this video out on your Facebook, I will give you 2 hours of Azure training. Send us a mail at questmont@questmont.com. Let me know that on this channel, is videos making more sense, or is this interactive session making more sense? If you like my interactive sessions, then please go and put in the comment that, sir, we want more such kind of a session. We can do more such kind of a session on our YouTube channel. Thank you very much. And please go ahead and share this whole training. Thank you, sir. Thanks.